Hey everybody, welcome back to the Backpack Hack channel, and today I'm going to be doing a review of the Fenix FD40 flashlight. Big spoiler alert here. These are discontinued. I had a bunch of raw footage already videotaped for this and went into production, and I found out on the manufacturer's website that they don't make these anymore. So if you're in the market for a flashlight, you need one quick, one that you can get a hold of fairly fast. You may not want to stick around. Go ahead and hit the X button or the back button and get out of here. I don't blame you. I understand. I get it. But if you're looking for a flashlight, you might want to stick around and listen to the review anyway, because you may decide this is the flashlight you want to get, like I did, or you decide there's something about this flashlight that you don't like. So let's get right into it. FD40, 1000 lumens max. Twist head to adjust focus, 5 level of brightness and strobe function, extended beam distance of 300 meters, and uses 126-650 or 118-650 rechargeable lithium-ion battery. Enough of that. Let's have an unboxing. Yay me. In the box we have replacement gasket, a lanyard, the little carry case, and I think there's another piece of paper in there too. The instruction manual, this is the warranty card and a little advertisement. That's all stuff that you can just squirrel away, because we're after this part right here, the flashlight. They don't come with a battery. You can buy a battery separately, or you can buy a battery and a charger. I opted for the battery and the flashlight because I already have a couple chargers that will charge this battery, so I went ahead and got it without the battery. So when you open it up, the first thing you'll find is a little metal ring in here. We'll get to that later. You take your battery, you slide it in, screw your tailpiece on, you push the button, and push the button. Come on. No, I got it. Yeah, it's on there tight. That's one of the quirks of this flashlight. You have to hold the button to get the light to come on. It's one of the things I don't like about it. And then once you get it on, you push that button to cycle through the 5 different brightness levels, which are 870, 220, 570, and 1000 lumens. We'll get to that later on. You have to push it to turn it on, and you have to push it and hold it to turn it off. That's a little quirky for me. But the pros make up for that con. I would not consider this an EDC flashlight. This is not something that you're going to be carrying on your person. I mean, this one is too big for me to be carrying on your person. This is great for a bug out bag or get home bag, or to throw in your vehicle, take to work type of thing, put it in your toolbox. It's not an EDC. It may look tactical, but I don't think I would consider this a tactical flashlight. Because first off, there's no way it's not meant to be mounted onto a firearm. One of the reasons I don't think it's tactical is it's too round. It rolls far too easy. It's too easy for this thing to simply fall over and roll off of a place. There are some beveled edges on here where there's some flats, but they're too numerous and they're too shallow to really stop this thing from rolling and falling off of somewhere. So that's one of the negatives. Again, you have to press and hold this button to get it to come on. That's a big negative for me as well. It's not very tactile in the dark. I generally have this sitting next to me in my tent, and I may reach for it, and I've got to, where is that? Oh, there it is. You know, in an emergency situation, that may not be the best. So take that as it is. It doesn't have a tail switch. I understand using a flashlight like this for military or law enforcement. I get that. And a tail light switch is just perfect for that, because your thumb is right there. But that's not how I use a flashlight. I use a flashlight like this. That's the way I want my button to be, is on the side. Again, it's not very tactile. I'm going to try to come up with some ways to maybe increase my chances of finding that quicker in the dark. There is one function about this that I really, really like, and that it has a lock-off feature. When I first read about this on the manufacturer's website, I thought that's really neat. And what you do is you press and hold the button, it'll go into strobe mode, and then it'll flash twice, and now you are in lock mode. You can push that button, and it will flash to let you know that it's locked. If you try to hold that button down to turn it on or off, it doesn't come on. Okay? And I thought that was a great feature. I mean, this way I can put it in my backpack and I don't have to worry about something pressing on that and turning it on and getting to the campsite and we'll have a dead battery. Or putting it in a tote of gear when I'm car camping. Something can push up against that and it won't turn on. I thought that was a great feature. And then I read in the instructions on how to unlock it. You unlock it using the exact same thing that you want to avoid. Something pushing on that, and after a couple seconds, it turns the flashlight on. To me, that's a big failure. Let me go through that again. Strobe, 2 flashes, and now we are locked off. If you push the button real quick, it will flash at you twice to let you know that it is locked. If you press and hold it like you're trying to turn it on, it simply will not turn on. But if you press and hold it for a couple of seconds, it turns the flashlight on. Big fail. There should have been something else to do that on Fenix's part. A couple things I've done to get around that. Obviously, you can just take the battery out and transport that separately. Problem is, that increases the volume of your gear. Another option I thought about is I just took a little piece of plastic, cut it in a circle. I put that on the back of the battery, screw the cap on, and now it doesn't come on at all. It won't because I've broken the circuit. However, the easiest and quickest and most functional way I found to do this is when your flashlight's on, just give the tail a little twist and it goes off. Let me do that again. I'm going to turn the flashlight on, and you can see that I'm not pressing the off button. I'm just going to turn that a little bit, and the flashlight goes off, and it will not come on. That's my preferred method. So that lock-off feature really doesn't work. Now, you sit here and listen to me complain about it. Let me praise it for a second. First off, it has a 1/4x20 tripod mounting screw attachment here, or a screw threaded hole here that matches up with a 1/4x20 standard tripod head. So you can actually mount this onto a tripod. If you want to set up a tripod to have it illuminate your campsite, or you want to use it for taking videos in the dark or taking pictures at night, you can do that. Another feature that I do like is I went ahead and bought this with the 26650 battery, but this ring right here, that's what it's for. Is so you can use a standard 18650 and slide it in there, and it works the same way. Now, when you are on the 18650, your lumen levels are exactly the same as with a 26650. It doesn't know the difference. Your run times are going to be lower because it's a smaller battery, but you still have the same amount of brightness. So that is a definite positive, especially if you have a lot of these 18650s for other different things. But I went ahead and got the 26650 simply for the runtime. I've never had it go dead on me. I'll go out camping for 2 or 3 days, and a week at a time, and I've never had one go dead on me. In addition to the dual battery, there is one feature that is either a great feature or a bane, depending on your particular preference, and that is whatever setting you turned it off at is the setting it will come back on. So if you have it on this setting and turn it off, it will come back on to that setting. If you have it on this setting, turn it off, it will come back on to that exact same setting. If you have it on the 8 lumen and turn it off, it will come back on the 8 lumen level. Now, some flashlights will always come back on their lowest lumen level, and you have to cycle up to whatever level you want. If that's what you want in a flashlight, then this is not the flashlight for you. The only way to get around that is if you're up here in one of the brighter levels, you've got to cycle through to the lower level and then shut it off, and then that's when it's set. I prefer it to be this way simply because I may have the low 8 lumen level to, I'm getting settled in for the night. I'm curled up in my sleeping bag. I want to make sure I got everything where it's accessible to me at night. And then I'll rank this up to 1,000 lumens and then set it next to me. So if there's something that happens in the middle of the night, I've got a lot of light right away. I like that feature. I like it coming on to the last setting I set it on. There are 5 brightness settings. There's 8, 70, 220, 570, and 1,000 lumens. And you'll notice that the strobe is not part of that cycle. Unlike this thing, where the strobe, I have high, low, and strobe, this one does not have strobe in that cycle. The way to turn it on to strobe is to simply press and hold that button until it goes into strobe. And that, again, might be a bad thing, because that slight delay between you pushing the button and it going into strobe may make the difference if you're trying to use this to confuse an attacker. It's like dialing 911. Somebody's going to stab you or shoot you. Hold on just a second. Let me dial 911 and let them know where I'm at and what I'm up against. No, that fraction of a second between here and there might be the difference between life and death. So I really wouldn't rely on this flashlight for personal protection in that using the strobe to confuse an attacker. Your best bet is walking around with your finger on the button. That way you can deploy it as fast as possible. Man, you're there. Okay? But I really wouldn't rely on it to confuse an attacker. There are, like I said, there are different run times between the 26650 and the 18650. I'll put those up here now if you really want to get technical. They'll also be in the description below. But the one thing I really like about this flashlight is that it has a mag light style twist head. So I can go from spot to flood just by twisting that ring. And that's what really sold me on this flashlight. Some flashlights that do spot and flood, they have 2 LEDs. One with a flood reflector and one with a spot reflector. My Petzl headlamp here, it uses a little sliding diffuser. Turn it on here. It uses a little sliding diffuser to go between spot and flood. And that's fine for that, but I really enjoy having that twist head. Another thing I like about it is stiff. I mean, it doesn't just take a fingertip. You really got to grip this thing and put some effort into it. So once you set it at a certain setting, between spot and flood or spot, wherever you set it, it's going to stay there. Walking around with it on the trail is not going to move that. The tail cap is the same way. It's good and stiff on there. I mean, it's not going to simply rattle off of there walking down the trail. Those are the things that I really like about it. Okay, we're going to talk about runtime for a second here. And I'm going to go to the manufacturer's claim here. 8 lumens, 308 hours. 70 lumens, 49 hours, 54 minutes. 220 lumens, 14 hours, 40 minutes. 570 gives you 5 hours, 5 minutes. And 1,000 lumens, 25 hours, 25 minutes. The only test I did for this was I turned the flashlight on, let it run the battery down a little bit, fully charged it back up to 100%, put it back in, turn it on to 8 lumens, and then I just let it set. Now I can't sit there for 308 hours, which is just almost 4 weeks or 2 weeks, 14 days. I can't watch it all that time. I have to sleep, I have to go to work, I have to eat dinner and things like that. But every time I looked at it, it was plugging away. About 270 hours in, every once in a while, I noticed it would flicker off just for a fraction of a second. I thought maybe the battery is getting so low that it couldn't drive the driver, maintain the voltage to drive the driver to keep the LED going. But after 308 hours, it was still going. However, I took it and compared it to another one, and I compared that right next to it, and here's the result. The fully charged flashlight on the left, you can see is quite a bit brighter than my test flashlight on the right after 308 hours. It looks to be about half the brightness. I've got no way to really test to see how bright it really was at the time in terms of lumens. I don't know if it was putting out 4 or 6 or 2 or what. I've got no way to test that. So if you want to consider that a success or a failure, that's up to you. But after 308 hours, I still had light. So that is a big plus. How bright is it? Well, you know, we have 870, 220, 570, and 1,000 lumens, but how bright is that? I've seen people go into their backyard and shine this on a tree in their backyard and say, yeah, that tree is about 60 feet away and I can see it just fine. Look at that. Well, the problem is their camera's set in auto. So if I went like this, the camera would adjust its exposure and the tree would look exactly the same. If I went into this, the camera would adjust its exposure and it would look just the same. Most people don't know how to set their cameras on manual, and some cameras don't even have a manual mode. Mine does. So I was wondering, how could I convey how bright this is on a video without just going and shining it on a tree in my backyard and saying, tree's 60 feet away, look how bright it is. Well, first off, let's define a lumen. And I looked this up. A lumen is the SI unit of luminous flux equal to the amount of light emitted per second in a unit solid angle of 1 steradian from a uniform source of 1 candela. Yeah. Did you get that? Totally meaningless. So I was trying to come up with another way. How could I convey how bright this is? And I came up with a way. There is a chart called the exposure value chart the photographers use. And it uses common terms like areas in open shade on a clear sunlit day, sunlit scene, cloudy sky, well-lit street, average home interior with artificial lighting, landscape at night under a full moon. We've all seen those things. We all know how bright those things are. So, what I decided to do was come up with my own little standard. And my standard is, and I'll read it here because I wrote it down, minimum amount of light needed to comfortably read a normal book. Now I've got a dimmer for the light I'm shooting this with right here, and of course the camera is going to try to adjust for that. But at night, I turned off all the other lights in my house, waited for night, so I only had this light above me to read by, and I started to lower the amount of light that this light was putting out until I started to struggle to read what was on here. I mean, struggle to make out the letters. Context helps a lot, but could I actually make out what I was looking at? Once I got to that point, I came back up, and then I decided that I would take my photographic light meter and measure that amount of light. So here's my idea. I'm going to go over to the local sports complex in my city, and since these are tripod mountable, I'm going to mount this on a tripod. I'm going to set it for 8 lumens on flood, and then I'm going to see how much light, how far I have to get away to get the same amount of light as I got right here reading a book. And then I'm going to go to 70 lumens, and I'm going to move this out. I'm going to go to 220, move this out, 570, and 1,000 in flood. Then I'm going to spin this around to spot and see where that same amount of light falls at those 5 different lumen settings. This way we're going to have 10 distances, 5 for flood, 5 for spot. How far away in each 10 of those can I be from this flashlight and read this book? Now obviously there's going to be light past that, but hopefully that benchmark will give you an idea of how bright this flashlight is at the various lumen settings in either spot or flood. At those distances, I should be able to pull this book out and read it comfortably. So let's grab everything. I'm going to grab my flashlight, a couple tripods, one for the flashlight, one for the camera. I'm going to grab my light meter. I'm also going to grab a way to measure and a way to mark these distances. So since it's winter, I'll probably be wearing a coat. Let's bundle up. Let's head over there after dark. I'm actually going to do this way late in the night. Hopefully the police don't kick me out because they close at 10 o'clock. And let's get this done. Okay, so here's the plan. Got my light meter, I've got some flags, and I've set up along this out of bounds line on the soccer field at my local athletic stadium here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the camera or the flashlight back down to 8 lumens and take a reading and see how far I am from the flashlight and put a flag. I'll repeat the process for 70, 220, 570, and 1,000 on flood. I'll measure those distances, pull the flags up, and repeat the whole thing on spot. So let's get started. Oh, I got to go back to, there is 8 lumens, and you get it right there, right about there. I'm going to say is about 3 foot. I'm not even going to bother measuring that. So I'm just going to bump it up to the 70 lumens and see how far I have to go. I'm going to try to eyeball myself with that line. So right there is 70 lumens. I'm going to take a flag, mark that, come back here, bump it up to the 220. And let's see where we go with 1,000 lumens, right there. So now we're going to get our measuring device, which is a measuring wheel. And like I said, I'm not even going to bother with the first one. It was like 3 foot. And I'm going to make sure I zero that out. And I've got another flashlight here so I can get a direct reading on this. And let me get this one turned on and get it next to the, and away we go. We have 12 foot, 23 foot, 37 foot, and 51 feet. So those are our 5 measurements for the flood. Come on, it turned off. Okay, in spot. Ooh, we are right there is our 8 lumen distance. Okay. Switch to 70 lumens. Not even get close here. Well, we just... Okay, there's 70 lumens. Alrighty. I know I'm going to get a workout on this job. The 1,000 lumens. Out right there. So now I'm done with my meter. I can put it away. And now it's time to go back and get the flashlight or the measuring wheel, and we'll see where we end up at. Alrighty, 8 lumens. Well, it's close, 11 foot. Come out here to the 70 lumen. We're at 52 feet. I know I'm not exactly in a straight line, but I'm not looking for scientific accuracy. 220 is 94 foot. 550 is 150. So we're at half a football field. American, not European. And our farthest is 209. And there you have it. My review of the Fenix FD40 flashlight. Hopefully you found this useful. If nothing else, I've kind of hopefully set a standard of measuring brightness that if I come across other flashlights, I'll use that as well. And if you decide that the FD40 is something for you, maybe you can find one on eBay or Amazon, or one of your local stores that carries Fenix might be able to get a hold of one or still has one on the shelf. Or maybe you've decided this is not the flashlight for you. Hopefully I helped you out. So this is Backpack Hack coming at you with this trail tip. Be safe out there, and I will see you out on the trail.